12:30. Now, the latest ITV News Central with Samina Ali Khan and Bob Warman.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Central. On the programme tonight, tributes from the head teacher of two young sisters who died after being hit by a car.
We will remember them forever. We're going to hold them in our hearts and pay tribute to the family.
The pioneering work helping Midlands motoring go hands-free.
Dicing with death, how road users are risking their lives at level crossings.
And we get a look inside Birmingham's newest department store as it sets up shop.
Good evening. More details are emerging tonight about the young sisters killed when they were hit by a car on Father's Day. Neighbours have described Lily and Shelley Wu as little princesses, and the head teacher has told us she will hold them in her heart forever.
Meanwhile, Birmingham City Council has promised to listen to local people who claim the tragedy at a busy road junction was an accident waiting to happen. Gareth Owen reports.
Shelley and Lily. One 6 years old, one aged 7. Both just starting to blossom at their new school in their new country. Two lives cut short. They were just yards from home when they were hit by a car on their way to a Chinese Sunday school in Nechells with their family. Their mother, brother and sister are still in hospital. A 34-year-old man was arrested but released on bail. The girl's next-door neighbour told me he was struggling to accept what had happened.
And it's shocking right now because I didn't know what to do after the news, and I was just sitting down and imagine the two little princes just died, and there was friendly to my sisters and to everyone as well. There was brilliant kids and there was lovely family.
The sisters started at Wilkes Green Infant School 2 years ago. They were learning English quickly, making new friends, and winning the hearts of their teachers.
The children were super. We will remember them forever. We're going to hold them in our hearts and pay tribute to the family and try everything we can to support the family get through this.
But as well as grief here today, there is anger.
Every time it's a very speed, very fast. I think 50 or 60 speed is not good. That's why every time it's crossed the children, he go to the park as well.
Locals say this junction is simply dangerous.
And you can see what they mean. Grove Lane is a really busy route cutting right through the middle of Handsworth. We're at the top of a blind hill here. There are 2 bus stops, 2 other busy road junctions, and then another blind bend just behind me. Sometimes people say cars come down here at 50 or 60 miles an hour. Locals say they're devastated by what's happened, but not at all surprised.
In a statement, Birmingham City Council says, "Our thoughts are with the family and local community at this very sad time, and naturally we will listen to concerns from residents and their ward councillors. There is currently an ongoing police investigation into this tragic incident, and it would be inappropriate to comment further at this stage." The councillor who represents the area says he's already listening. He spent this morning talking to highways bosses.
We've lost 2 very young innocent lives. We've got 3 people in hospital, one of whom is also fighting for her life. We will not brush this under the carpet. We've already had meetings. We'd love to make changes to that overnight, but we've got to wait for the initial police inquiries. I can't suggest the changes that are required there because we're going to rely on professionals to come in whose day job it is to look at this particular site and see what needs addressing here.
This is a close community. Everyone is in grief. People have started taking envelopes with donations to the girls' school. One man brought in £200. Classmates offer their own unique tributes. Gareth Owen, ITV News, Handsworth.
An inquest has heard that 3 soldiers who died on an SAS selection march lay unconscious on a mountain for up to 2 hours before help arrived. A commanding officer told the inquest that he was in charge of monitoring the tracking devices of 78 candidates. Lance Corporal Craig Roberts, Corporal James Dunsby and Lance Corporal Edward Mayer collapsed on an exercise in Wales in 2013.
One of the victims of the Alton Towers roller coaster crash has been discharged from hospital. Joe Pugh shattered both his knees when two carriages collided on the Smiler ride earlier this month. His girlfriend, Leah Washington, had to have her leg amputated. A total of 16 people were injured in the crash. The theme park in Staffordshire has confirmed all those hurt will get compensation. Now, MPs are to vote on a series of tweaks and changes to the planned route for HS2, the high-speed rail line linking the West Midlands to London. It follows consultation with those living in its path.
Among the proposed changes is to tunnel under the A38 near Lichfield rather than build a viaduct. Well, we can go now to our political correspondent Alison Mackenzie at Westminster. Alison, will this allay people's concerns about the project?
Well, that is the aim, but of course it's a project that does cause a lot of passion on either side. This is it, 125 amendments now published, being considered by MPs. It has to be said most of the changes are minor. For example, at Aston Villa football ground, a slight change to the direction of a footpath. At Kenilworth, there is extra land being taken to relocate a woodland habitat. But the big changes you mentioned there in Lichfield, I'll let the local MP explain.
The huge viaduct is going, and it's going to go instead under the A38 and the West Coast Main Line, so it lowers the whole track. And also they've changed the route a little bit because I'm a very keen narrowboater, and the canals in the area were going to be devastated by having two ugly bridges across them. That's going as well. So while I'm against the whole thing in principle because of the route, for Lichfield anyway, it's a major improvement and a big win for local campaigners.
And Alison, unusually, future HS2 passengers have been having their say about on-board facilities.
Yes, they have, Bob. They've been asked to contribute to a survey commissioned by HS2 Limited, looking at what people want once the new trains start running. Among the requests, a GP surgery, a gym, music, entertainment, but perhaps more realistically, they want staff visibility.
It's accepted that technology is going to play a big part in delivering many of these services, particularly as we're talking sort of 10 years hence. But nonetheless, staff are really important. And in fact, technology will help free up their time to actually be sort of talking to passengers, actually providing that reassurance, rather than maybe, as they're sometimes seen nowadays, as sort of policing the service. So they'll be able to really be the face of HS2, delivering great customer service.
So that's the views of passengers. The amendments to the route now goes forward to the committee looking at the whole event, and they are promising tonight spades in the ground for HS2 in 2017.
Alison, thank you for that report.
Thousands of people are putting lives at risk by irresponsible and dangerous driving at level crossings. That's according to the British Transport Police.
These CCTV images they've released show the chances that people are willing to take to shave a few minutes off their journey. British Transport Police say there were 323 recorded offences at level crossings last year in the Midlands alone. They've launched a week of action to encourage people to use level crossings safely.
One railway worker who was seriously injured when he was hit by a car as he closed a gate at a level crossing has been speaking to our reporter Tom Savides.
As Doug Cadell is closing the barrier at this level crossing, a car strikes the gate, throwing him to the ground. Mr. Cadell suffered serious cuts to his head and fractured 2 vertebrae in his spine. He's now recovering at home after surgery.
Through everything that's happened, I've got one very vivid memory of my wife. I wasn't completely with it, but I sort of came to enough to hear the anguish in her voice, the holding back tears, when she was begging me to breathe. I'm not sure where I was in that process, but that hit home that made me realise how much trouble I was in.
The barriers are operated manually by a railway worker who's responsible for keeping the crossings safe. But as Doug Cadell found out, his life was put at risk as he carried out his job. The police have been handing out leaflets warning drivers and cyclists of the dangers.
Have you ever tried to nip across the barriers?
No, that's foolish.
Anything that they can do to improve it, it will be a good idea. So, yes, I
Have you ever taken a risk trying to cross a level crossing?
No.
It needs to be addressed before there are more fatalities, really, especially with a preschool and a very busy primary school at the top of the hill.
There were more than 350 incidents at level crossings across the country last year. Tragically, 7 of those resulted in death, and today's campaign aims to bring those numbers down.
Over the last 6 years, we've removed almost 1,000 level crossings, and over the next 4 years, we're spending £100 million to improve safety.
Recent Network Rail campaigns have focused on the risks people take when jumping barriers. Now the actions of some drivers and cyclists are being highlighted in the latest campaign to save lives at level crossings. Tom Savides, ITV News.
Coventry City Council is to invite David Cameron to move the government to the city while repairs are done to the Houses of Parliament. The council will suggest that moving the government temporarily to purpose-built buildings in Friargate would cut repair time to just 6 years and save billions of pounds for taxpayers. Afterwards, the buildings could be used as a city centre conference venue.
A list of historic buildings that need urgent repair or regeneration has been released by the campaign group Save Britain's Heritage. Amongst them is this 19th century toll house in Smethwick. Its owners, Sandwell Council, say they want to see it brought back to use and are looking to market the building later in the year.
The Smethwick Toll House was built in about 1820 to service the Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Dudley Turnpike, and it's a really charming little building with 2 stories, tiny little front door, and on the front there's a panel that would have been used to display the charges for the toll road. It needs a great deal of work doing to it, and once that was done, you can picture any number of local businesses going in there and finding themselves suddenly with a business address that is the local landmark.
You're watching ITV News Central. Still to come on the programme. The computer takeover and how driverless cars could be the future.
And why this model from the present is getting a sugary celebration.
And join me for your Midlands weather forecast. It's warming up over the next couple of days, so find out just how hot it's going to get.
High Street retailer John Lewis says it's confident its first ever store in Birmingham will be its most innovative yet and will open on time.
The builders have moved inside ahead of a September opening date. Our reporter Stacey Foster was among the first to have a look around.
£35 million of investment starting to take shape. 200 people are on site every day to get the first ever John Lewis in Birmingham ready and open on time.
It's still very much a work in progress, but this John Lewis store will be one of the biggest outside of London, and in 3 months' time it'll be able to cope with around 4,000 shoppers at any one time.
This is the 4th floor. It'll be home to the restaurant and hundreds of TVs and electrical items.
The contractors are doing very, very well. The floors, the ceilings, the walls are all complete. But as you can see, there's still lots to do before they then hand over to my team to make the shop turn from an empty shop into one of the best retail spaces worldwide is our ambition.
So it's going to be really kind of urban, really edgy.
And when the store opens, Lisa Williams is in charge.
How excited are you to actually get the keys?
Well, very excited. I mean, you can see there's lots happening here today, and getting the keys is about 2 days out. So I actually officially get handed the branch when it's beautiful and finished and ready. So a long way to go just yet, but it's coming on in leaps and bounds.
Why has it taken so long to get a John Lewis in Birmingham?
Well, we've been waiting for the right opportunity, and you can see how exciting it is when we find it, because actually it's going to be superb, and Grand Central gave us that great opportunity to really work with Network Rail, Birmingham City Council, and come into this fantastic space.
Work started to build the store back in 2012. It sits on top of the newly revamped New Street station and is part of the Grand Central development of 60 shops and restaurants, which all need staff.
We had one every minute, applying one person a minute at first, so really had thousands and thousands of applicants for it. So we're now in the final stages of assessing those people, ready for them starting with us, so we're at the sort of final stages of recruitment now.
As the builders move out, 500 staff will move into this store to get it ready for the open day, which will be sometime in September. The date will be announced next month. Stacey Foster, ITV News, Birmingham.
Just a quick mention of what's coming up tonight. ITV's foreign correspondents will be on the West Bank, up the world's tallest building and examining the reality of life as a heroin addict. Here's a preview of On Assignment with Raggy Omar.
Tonight, Robert Moore is in New Jersey to witness the heroin nightmare unfolding in the suburbs of East Coast America. Geraint Vincent is in the West Bank to meet one boy still living on an abandoned street at the heart of the conflict. And John Irvine is in Dubai, home to the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. That's On Assignment tonight at 10:40.
Well, travelling in a car with a computer in complete control is an exciting prospect for some commuters, but others remain doubtful. Even so, the technology needed for a driverless vehicle is getting closer every day.
And some of the West Midlands top car makers are leading the way. In the first of a three-part series on motoring, Andy Bevan takes a look at how automation is revolutionising the way we drive and how the Midlands is playing its part in the vehicles of the future.
For some time, driverless cars have been the next big thing in the motoring and technology industries around the world. But public concerns over travelling hands-free, possibly without even a steering wheel, has led to a less daunting description of them. They're now called autonomous vehicles. According to the RAC Foundation, there were 16.8 billion vehicle miles driven in the urban areas of the West Midlands in 2010. In the next 10 years, that figure is predicted to rise by 20%. No wonder then that letting an onboard brain take the strain is the dream of many a motorist.
Driver alert! Obstruction ahead! Reduce speed now!
In 1997 we were all amazed by James Bond's backseat driving, but what seemed like a piece of movie make-believe is fast becoming a reality.
I can then remove the brakes very slightly and the car will then inch forwards.
At Jaguar Land Rover's proving ground in Gaydon, they've been showing off a somewhat more sedate version of drive-by-phone, but even at a crawl, sitting inside watching the steering wheel controlled from outside is strangely fascinating. The app also wirelessly controls the throttle, brakes and gear shift, allowing a driver to, say, remotely reverse if someone has parked too close for them to open the door, or become their own off-road spotter, guiding the vehicle over obstacles from outside. JLR says it doesn't intend to produce a totally autonomous vehicle itself, but its Director of Research and Technology says they are close.
Very close, because perfecting means there is a path to get it to the full autonomy. My forecast is it's some 10 years away until the car can fully autonomously drive in every environment.
There are days when I'm sitting on the M40 or the M6 or the M1 snarling in rage because I'm there for an hour and it's senseless waste of human life. And if I was in a machine where all that responsibility was taken away from me and I could sleep or use my iPad or do any one of 100 other things, that I think would be useful time.
The government wants the UK to be a major player in the development of autonomous vehicles. It's currently ploughing £10 million into UK Autodrive, a consortium of local authorities, automotive businesses and academic institutions which are carrying out a 3-year £20 million project into driverless mobility. As well as the big players, UK Autodrive also includes smaller specialist firms like RDM Group in Coventry. it's developing an all-electric two-person autonomous pod which will run passengers from transport hubs such as railway stations to nearby destinations like shopping centres. This is a prototype, and for now it does have a steering wheel and a driver.
Here at the top screen we have an iPad that tells us information through the pod. So it tells us how fast we're driving, how much power is left in the battery on the vehicle. On the bottom we have a map. The pod is able to take information off of the map, talks then to the 20 sensors, and then works out as to what type of obstacle is in front.
Eventually though, through a combination of radar technology which uses radio waves, LiDAR, a laser that can measure distances, parking sensors and onboard cameras, it'll be able to find its own way around. The pod will be trialled in Milton Keynes this summer and on the streets of Coventry next year. Full autonomy though is not on every car maker's agenda. Yesterday, Toyota unveiled the latest incarnation of the Auris, which is manufactured at Burnaston in Derbyshire. It already has several safety features that take some decision-making away from the driver, like assisted braking to avoid collisions, alerts to warn about lane drifting, and a system that reads road signs and displays them on the dash. But at least for now, the company still sees humans staying in overall control. Toyota told ITV News automated driving technologies are an important way to help eliminate traffic fatalities and injuries. We want to enable all drivers to drive skillfully by enhancing the support systems available to them. Getting the technology right is only the start of the journey towards autonomous vehicles. What about insurance? Would an occupant be liable in an accident? What about the MOT test? Would an autonomous vehicle be required to pass one? And what about driving licenses? Would we even need one? One thing is for certain though, sooner or later, autonomous vehicles will be coming to a street near you. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
And tomorrow we'll be meeting drivers as young as 11, all supervised of course. Now on a motoring theme, take a look at this. It shows black country cake maker Lara Clark tackling her latest challenge, which took 150 hours. It's a huge Land Rover cake to celebrate the 2 millionth Defender model.
Looks great, doesn't it? Fast forward a little and it starts to resemble a car. It weighed 600 kilograms, had to be delivered by forklift truck, and it fed 2,000 people. It contained 50 kilograms of buttercream and 20 kilograms of ganache. Not one then for those watching their waistlines. And there you go, the finished product, completely painted up as well.
That's what they call the icing on the cake, that, isn't it? Wow. Now, Luce has joined us in the studio, and it's your first time. You couldn't be with us yesterday, could you?
I couldn't.
Because
no.
What were you up to?
I was filming some cheeky monkeys. I swapped the cheeky monkeys in our newsroom, Bob, for some in a local forest. I went to Trentham Monkey Forest, which is a fabulous place, and they've had a baby boom. Cue the cute pictures, because I've got to show you these. They've got 140 Barbary macaques, monkeys at the forest there, and they've had 12 new arrivals, double what they normally would over the past few weeks. They're really cute. There's even some twins. So we'll be meeting them in Love Local in a few days' time.
They're very cute, aren't they? And just tell us very quickly about the ex-tropical storm Bill.
Oh yes, well it's going to turn very humid and we've got some rain on the way. So let's get all the details in the forecast. Hello, well we've a lovely poppy field for you tonight, taken by Tony Watson in Tile Cross, and the contact details are on screen now if you'd like to send us any of your weather pictures. So then, what's happening over the next few days? Well, actually, there is a tiny bit of rain in the forecast over the next couple of days. You can see the rain rolling in from the Atlantic here. So on Wednesday afternoon into the evening, we might just see a little bit of rain in northern parts of the region. So parts of Staffordshire seeing some of that rain. It won't really amount to much though. All in all though, it's a fairly uneventful few days. It's going to be dry with patchy cloud overnight tonight. Milder than last night, temperatures up in double figures. That's how we start the day tomorrow. So lovely sunshine through the morning tomorrow, just some fair weather cloud. And temperatures climbing all the time, humidity rising tomorrow too. So highs of 20 degrees Celsius, feeling quite muggy by the afternoon as well. And we just start to see the cloud build in parts of Staffordshire. That's where we might see a few spots of rain late afternoon and into the evening as well. Now temperatures will rise even further by the time we get into Thursday. We're in for a dry day with plenty of sunshine. This is when temperatures reach their peak, and then they drop off a little bit on Friday and the cloud will build. There'll be a few spots of rain as well on Friday. Saturday looking decent. That's the best day of the weekend before more rain on Sunday.
How are you today?
Lloyd's Pharmacy, proud sponsors of the Pollen Count.
So then, in those rising temperatures, grass pollen levels are climbing too, very high over the next couple of days, with a bit of respite in that rain on Friday. Have a lovely evening.
And just before we go, a reminder of tonight's top stories on ITV News Central. Tributes have been paid to two sisters killed in a car crash in Handsworth on Father's Day. Neighbours have described Lily and Shelley Wu as little princesses. Their mother and two other children remain in hospital.
MPs are to vote on a series of tweaks and changes to the planned route for HS2. Among the changes, a tunnel under the A38 near Lichfield instead of a viaduct.
And a 19th century toll house in Smethwick has been named as at risk in a list of buildings that need urgent repairs by campaign group Save Britain's Heritage. Its owner, Sandwell Council, says it wants it to be brought back to use.
And that's it from us for the moment. Hope you'll join us a little bit later on for the late news headlines, and tomorrow, of course, at 6 o'clock. From the team, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.